Hi everyone, and welcome to another edition of Chirping from the Box. First off, I want to wish all of our veterans a happy Veterans Day and thank you all for your service. Secondly, I want to congratulate the U.S. women's team for winning the Four Nations Cup again last night. This is now 4 in a row for them with the 2-1 victory up in Canada. So congratulations, ladies. Now I do want to get to our topic of the day, which is underachievers. And I think there are a lot of teams out there who aren't necessarily performing to expectations. I know I've talked about this before with the new goaltending equipment, which has caused some issues. But I do have two teams in particular I'm thinking about who've really had problems out of the gate. Both have been inconsistent in their own ways. And that would be the Vegas Golden Knights and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, a lot of you are probably thinking to yourselves, well, what the heck? Why Vegas? They're in their second year. It's a fair point. Vegas is in their second year. However, they went to the Western Conference Final last year. Now, you could say they overachieved last year, which I do agree they overachieved. However, they still have that expectation because they went to the Stanley Cup Final last year. So, which way do you look at it? Do you look at it as a team that's in their second year and they're about on par for a second year team? Or are they a team that's coming off the Stanley Cup Final appearance and should be performing way better? I really do think it's a little bit of both. They let James Neal walk in the offseason, which I thought was a little weird because, he was a great scoring winger for them, although he has gotten off to a slow start. And they did trade for Max Pacioretty, but they also gave up some valuable assets like Thomas Tatar in that transaction. And then they went out and signed Paul Stastny. Well, Paul Stastny has been out, and Pacioretty has not been playing well so far. He actually did play very well in his homecoming against the Montreal Canadiens last night. But other than that, he just hasn't been impressive. And then, of course, we have Marc-Andre Fleury. Last year, he had a wonderful season. I think he was probably a little bit angry with the way he left Pittsburgh, although he handled it very well. And but this year, he's just not starting off so hot. Now, he is one of those goaltenders who has commented on the new goalie equipment, and he's mentioned how much he hates it. And Fleury's the type of player that he really kind of gets things stuck in his head. When he's hot, and when he's not. Unfortunately, he hasn't found his groove yet. And it also doesn't help Vegas that I would say probably one of their best defensemen, Nate Schmidt, is out. He was suspended for 20 games for violating the substance policy. So I think if I remember correctly, I think he's supposed to be back around the end of the month, which should definitely help the Knights. He is practicing with them from what I was reading. So I think they'll get themselves going. They just have to find their groove. The Pacific as a whole has been kind of funky with Edmonton up there and Vancouver doing much better than anticipated. So we'll see with that. And then next, of course, we've got the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, Pittsburgh's a little weird because you could say that their time has already come. So we've said that with the Blackhawks. We've said that with the Los Angeles Kings. Heck, a lot of people said that with the Penguins, after their 2 straight cup appearances in 08 and 09. And, they're 2 years off from winning back-to-back cups. Last year, they lost to Washington, and, that was just Washington's time. But I don't think they're necessarily outside their window yet. Now, they do have Justin Schultz out, but I do think some of the signings may have been a little questionable, maybe. I used to be a big Jack Johnson fan, but he's definitely aging, and he definitely became a defensive liability in Columbus before he left. So I think he's just trying to find his groove there. And then with Matt Cullen, the oldest player in the league, Matt Cullen's a fan favorite in Pittsburgh, but should they have brought him back? I don't know. But Pittsburgh's just been wildly inconsistent. It feels like they left all of their scoring in Canada. They had their 4-0 road trip going from Toronto to Western Canada. They scored, I believe, 24 goals in that frame, and they also had 2 shutouts. Since then, they've really been sputtering. They did pick it up last night. Last night was their first game after general manager Jim Rutherford, just for lack of a better term, threw them under the bus. And he said that, anyone was available for a trade, essentially. He had no problem making moves if needed. And I think the team definitely listened. One player in particular that comes to mind is Brian Rust, who signed a contract extension this year. And he even mentioned how hurt he was by those comments, and he definitely played like he was hurt by those comments last night. But do I think one game really solves Pittsburgh's problems? No. The Metropolitan has always been very competitive. The Islanders are doing really well this year. The Devils on paper should be doing better. I think they will do better. They've got to really figure out their goaltending issues. Of course, there's Washington. Philadelphia is unpredictable. You've got Columbus actually playing fairly well. And then, of course, the Rangers and Hurricanes. So the Metropolitan Division historically is really tough. So I'm not surprised that Pittsburgh's not doing well out of the gate. The past couple times they've won the cup, it's actually been like this. Especially back in 2009 and 2016, they had horrible starts to the season, fired their coaches, and then won the Stanley Cup. But Jim Rutherford, like he said, he mentioned that maybe this core has been together too long. That could be true. You figure Crosby and Malkin have been playing together since 2006. Hornquist has been there quite a few years. They may just be spoiled. They may still be on that Stanley Cup hangover. I think that hangover has since passed personally, but you never know. They could just be exhausted, but I don't think there's any excuse at the end of the day. There are very high expectations in both Pittsburgh and Vegas, especially considering, like I said, Vegas going to the Stanley Cup final last year, and then, Pittsburgh's performance in the past decade or so. So I do think things will turn around for both of them. I also think that both teams will make moves in order to make things happen. George McPhee is famous for arguably one of the worst trades of the post-lockout era, trading Philip Forsberg for Marty Erat, and that was just horrible. Rutherford, both in Carolina and Pittsburgh, has made some bold moves. Last year he traded for Derek Brassard. Of course, a few years back he traded for Phil Kessel. So I definitely see moves on both of those fronts. But I think the All-Star break will really be a telltale sign for each of them for how their playoffs will look. So I want to thank you all for watching. Please go ahead and leave your thoughts in the comments. Also make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you again, and we'll chat soon.